Chad, we start with a hiatus announcement from Ja Morant.
Look, it's really simple. Ja Morant's an idiot, okay? The evidence is in. You can stop blaming his entourage. You can stop blaming his dad. The dude is making ridiculously bad decisions, and it's a terrible look for him. It's a terrible look for the Grizzlies. It's a terrible look for the NBA. And you want to know what's even a worse look for the NBA? The fact that he is on camera willingly flashing a weapon, and he's got girls all around him, and they come back the next day, and they allow Ja Morant to say, guys, I'm going to step away for a couple games now to get my mind right and to get everything right. No. You are suspended. You are suspended. You don't get to make that call anymore. You have been investigated for pointing a gun with a laser at an entire NBA team. Your dad is getting into fights with celebrities at games. You are accused of punching a teenager in your home in a pickup basketball game. We're past the point of giving Ja Morant the benefit of the doubt and allowing him to decide what he's going to do in terms of stepping away from the team. Let's call this what it is. You're suspended. You're not allowed to come out and say, I'm going to step away for a couple games, get everything right. No. You are suspended. Either the Grizzlies or the league needs to say it. And the fact they won't shows the utter softness of the entire NBA. This is a players' league. The players are running it into the ground with load management, with stupid stuff like this. And by allowing the player to come out and release a statement and say, I'm stepping away for a little bit. Nope. You don't get to make that call. You are suspended until we tell you can come back. And now the league wants to come out and say, or the Grizzlies, it's indefinite. The coach is saying it's an indefinite suspension.
Taylor Jenkins, who's the head, and again, the players have the power. The players are coaching these teams. They're the general managers of these teams. If they want to be traded, they're traded. If they want a super team, the super team is created. But Taylor Jenkins, in the quote, Chad, we have said that's going to be at least 2 games. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing healing process. It's really not a timetable situation. And then he goes on to say, we're going to take this very seriously. There's a supportive element for someone that's got to get better and needs some help. But then there's also accountability to the team that we've got to stand for. I mean, it's more of like, is he the victim here? Or is he the problem?
Well, he's turned himself into the victim. There's going to be a lot of, mental health talk and, he's not handling stress well, like you put out in that statement, and all of this. Look, that's all fine and dandy. If you need to go to rehab or you need to go seek psychiatric help, go do it. But when you run afoul of the law, which, by the way, Colorado authorities are now investigating because he ran afoul of the law with the gun in this photo, possibly. Right. If you're doing that, you're suspended. During that suspension, the team can tell you and urge you to go get help, or you can take it upon yourself to go get help.
The Instagram Live, there was definitely a gun brandished at the nightclub.
Absolutely. And this is turned into now Ja Morant has decided, I'm going to step away for a bit, guys, and go get help. No, you're suspended. And if you want to go get help in this time, go do it. We will support you.
Let's pick up here, though. If that's the case, that you're supporting him in his healing or getting help for him, I hope they actually follow through with this. Because this is not the first, second, third incident within the last 12 months, including Ja Morant's name. I hope that they're taking this seriously now. Because in the past, last month, it's just, we investigated it and there's no proof that there was a gun on the end of the laser that was pointed at the Indiana Pacers. Okay. And we just end it there after the NBA has already conducted the investigation. That's apparently what they're doing again here. But this should be a league decision, not just a team decision, a mandated league decision to make sure that you're helping Ja Morant, one of your biggest stars, get out of the downward spiral that we're all witnessing. We're witnessing this in real time. It's not a champion storyline. It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare, and it's a nightmare that's in part created by the National Basketball Association because they have not taken these allegations seriously.
Not created, but continued.
It's created in that they are enabling Ja Morant. When they say they have findings of nothing going wrong, when guys are getting laser pointers pointed at him by his entourage, when you've got, the thing going on this offseason with the kid getting punched in his house, now the report out about him showing up because his mom called him from a Foot Locker, basically, at a local mall and him bringing 9 of his buddies there and then
With the
harassing
mall
a mall cop.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get this information, you suspend the guy. You discipline him in some way. It's the Grizzlies' fault. It's Ja Morant's fault, first and foremost. But for enabling him, it's the Memphis Grizzlies. It's the entire city of Memphis that continues to defend this guy and enable all of his actions and every decision he makes, whether how stupid it is, does not matter. And it's the National Basketball Association. This now falls on them. And when he is on Instagram Live brandishing a weapon in a nightclub,
which he carries with him,
and he comes out the next day and says, no excuses, I take full blame, I'm going to step away. No, this is where a strong league steps up and says, you're not stepping away, buddy. You're suspended.
Right.
Until we tell you you can come back. And if you need to seek treatment, do so. You will have our support. And when you've got that treatment, we will allow you to come back. But make no mistake about it, you are suspended. Instead, they continue to enable Ja Morant by allowing him to do and say what he wants with no real repercussions. And that's a problem. And it'll continue to be a problem for this league.
Yep. And is he the only player that's doing this? Well, he's doing it on Instagram Live. Do I think there are other players that are carrying weapons around? Sure. I'm sure there are. They're not going on Instagram Live to boast about it, to show it off, to threaten someone with it, which is the accusation from the teenager with the 19-year-old that happened at his house. Again, craziness. And they're all separate incidents that follow a pattern. And I hope that by stepping in, no matter what they did to allow Morant to act like he's taking personal time, by stepping in, I hope this actually has an outcome that's better than where I suspect this is going. We were all witnessing the train wreck. And I hope it's early on down the tracks and not far down the tracks at this point.
And look, I'm all for second chances, third chances, fourth chances,
Sure.
even if someone gets it right and they start making better decisions and they continue to be the star that they are. Ja Morant was a great story for the NBA. Great story for the city of Memphis.
It still can be.
Still can be, and the comeback story can be even better. I'm rooting for that. I hope that happens. But I just want everyone that's following this to understand when you defend everything, every bad decision that someone makes, you in part enable that person. And this is now the finished product of what we have, is what happened over the weekend with Ja Morant, and then him being allowed to say, I'm stepping away, and not that he's suspended. It's a bad look for the league. It will be a good look for Ja Morant in the league if he figures things out and comes back stronger and better, because he is a terrific player. And he does have a chance to be a superstar in this league, but what he is right now is a problem child for the NBA, and that's not good for anyone.
Chad, there's reports out that the Chicago Bears, they're happy with Justin Fields enough to where they're going to trade back out of the first overall pick. And the rumors are swirling out of Indianapolis, as happens every year when you have the general managers and the agents and the coaches and everyone around with the media, on or off the record. And the apparent asking price for either Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, or Anthony Richardson is your first 2 picks this year, a first and a second round pick this year, plus a first round pick in 2024 and a first round pick in 25. Personally, 3 first round picks and a second rounder this year, that does not add up to the return on investment for any of these players to get ahead of the Houston Texans. I would not pay that price. Now, does it have to be that price? No. Could there be someone that's going to jump up in front of Indianapolis at number 3 with Arizona? Instead of trying to get Bryce Young, they go with whoever is remaining after Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. At least in theory, that's who the first 2 would be, and you go after Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. The price tag should be less than what I just read off. But I don't think any of these guys, as I view them through the lens of what I've seen in college, not from the combine, I don't see this year's first round and second round pick and then 2 future first round picks in exchange for that player in what would be Carolina. Carolina may be able to stay where they are and get Will Levis. Potentially Tennessee. The Giants are working things out with Daniel Jones. There are other QB needy teams in the top 10. I would not pay the price to get ahead of the Houston Texans.
I wouldn't either. It is interesting, though, if the price was lessened and you could get the other guy, like someone trades up and pays the huge ransom to get the Bears pick and draft Bryce Young, let's say.
Yeah, then Houston selects the next guy.
Then Houston's probably going to get the next guy no matter what.
Right.
But let's say Houston did something crazy and traded out to get more picks because they need more and they're not gung-ho over either of the two. Is a less of a price worthy of a C.J. Stroud, let's say? Maybe. With that price that you mentioned, Hutton, I think of Trevor Lawrence. I think of Andrew Luck when he came out. I think of these guys that, not that there's any no doubt surefire thing in the NFL, but ones where it's more unanimous. Mm-hmm. There's not a question about the weight of a player or the height or what he did in big games, with C.J. Stroud against Michigan. There's just no real huge glaring question marks or weaknesses about that quarterback. That's the guy you pay that price for. I don't see that with either one of these guys. I think Bryce Young's going to be a good pro. I'm not as sold on C.J. Stroud right now, but I'm with you in that that's a hefty price for those guys.
But also, so those would say, if you don't have a quarterback, you're not doing anything with those first-round picks anyway. So you got to go trade and get those guys. That may be fair, but the difference in how I look through it, you also have to put talent around your young quarterback. And if you're giving up your next 2 drafts in the first round, plus this year's second-round pick, and you're just swapping picks with Chicago, I don't know how you're going to do that in today's NFL where everyone seems to be cap-strung right now, where they're searching to find ways to cut players to save money. And eventually, by the time you actually have first-round picks back, you're about to pay your quarterback after year 3 in order to give him the extension so the money's going to him. I would not pay the price that's been reported or leaked that Chicago and polls that they're asking for right now. And it may be less than that come draft time. It may be, maybe you don't have as many bidders after free agency begins on the 15th. But, Chad, if I'm, let's say, Baltimore, you have capital in the player of Lamar Jackson, not necessarily the pick. So I wonder how eager Chicago would be for players included in the offer. Now you've got my attention for number 1 overall, but not my 2 future first-round picks that I'm going to use to enhance the quarterback I'm drafting.
Well, let's throw an example out there. The Titans.
Right.
You've got reports of Jeffrey Simmons taking all of his Titan stuff off his social media, Derrick Henry being shopped. Mm-hmm. I think now we're talking ball, right? If you're talking about guys you're going to lose soon anyways, more than likely.
And Teron Davenport
and you can trade
ESPN,
them away and not those picks, that makes more sense.
Teron Davenport from ESPN.com says that the Titans like C.J. Stroud. So with that in mind, what does it take to get ahead of Houston? And if not Houston, then you make the deal on draft night to trade with Arizona to get ahead of Indy, right? You wait to see what Houston does, and then you decide if you want to trade up.
See, when you take away the haul of picks and reduce it by 1 first-round pick, and you can add a Jeffrey Simmons or Derrick Henry if you're the Titans or another team with a good player, I like that scenario a lot more.
Same. And, Chad, you mentioned it. Henry's being mentioned in reports that the Titans over this past week and weekend were talking with teams and GMs, and specifically from this report, it was the general manager, Mike Silver, said a GM told him that the Titans were shopping Derrick Henry. He has 1 year left, really 1 year left on a restructured deal, no guarantees up front, and it would cost them around $10 million against the cap to move the former NFL rushing leader and a player that's coming off of a 17-yard rushing season. But this would be a move that, while I think many would think it's a red flag, or a white flag, I should say, of surrender, rebuild year, it may also be a scenario where they say, hey, we know what we can do without Derrick Henry. We did it in 2021 to finish the season running the football. He's not going to do anything with the offensive line we currently have. So should we trade him away to gain something in return now, a year early, instead of a year late? That could be their line of thinking. The other player that they have to get under contract is Jeffrey Simmons. He hasn't been floated as a trade rumor. He's been in the news because the Titans are trying to work out a long-term deal with potentially, once Aaron Donald is no longer in the league, he's the franchise guy on the interior defensive line. He's at least number 2 right now. Chris Jones as well is in that mix, but Simmons is in that conversation. And then we hear from Los Angeles with the Rams, where Jalen Ramsey and Allen Robinson could be traded this offseason. And we still have DeAndre Hopkins, who is reportedly going to be traded by the Arizona Cardinals. There's going to be a lot of movement between now and the draft.
And I think from the Titans' perspective, if you think C.J. Stroud is your franchise quarterback, you absolutely move Derrick Henry as part of that.
Yep, based on where they are.
It's absolutely worth it.
Now the question is...
And that's no knock on Derrick Henry. That's just where they are. If you think you're getting out ahead of what is inevitable, then you make that move.
But you've got to go to number one.
Yeah.
But that's good. That's good for the Titans.
Again, if you're in love with the quarterback that much, do it.
And if you're trading Derrick Henry, there's only how many teams, 5, 6 teams that you can say are run-based, that want to run the football first. Chicago's one of them.
Yeah.
So that could be very intriguing overall for a back who, is going to command $10 million plus on the open market, and maybe a little bit more than that. He got paid, 14 last year because he was due 12. They gave him a $2 million bonus. And 2-3 years left of premier, reach your total talents type years.
Yeah.
But he has been banged up. That's the other thing.
It's worth it.
Derek Carr is headed to New Orleans. He tweets out, "Who dat?" today. Now, it's not official because the Saints are going to have to make some room on the cap in order to acquire the contract that they're going to sign Derek Carr to. Everyone's reporting it, including Derek Carr himself, who tweeted out that he's going to New Orleans. All the players are pumped. Mike Garafolo says they're closing in on a deal. After 9 seasons with the Raiders, the 4-time Pro Bowl selection headed to New Orleans. The first quarterback domino about to fall, and one NFC South team has its starter. I don't know if there's another NFC South team that has their starter right now.
Kyle Trask in Tampa.
They're trying to say that, but they don't.
Desmond Ridder in Atlanta.
No, not seeing it.
Not going to happen.
Right now, Matt Corral and Jacob Eason are the 2 quarterbacks in Carolina.
Carolina. It's a no-brainer to me for New Orleans. This from the beginning, I just thought that's a nice spot for Derek Carr. I'm not doing backflips over this. If I'm the Saints, it's just a move that makes sense. Part of the freeing up of salary cap room will be Jameis Winston getting cut.
Yep.
So that's one thing that's going to happen. But look, this makes New Orleans better. They got a decent roster, good defense around them. You're in a division right now where everything's up in the air from a quarterback standpoint. It's the right move for Derek Carr. It's the right move for the Saints. It's rare that something comes together that lacks any questioning of it with me. There's 0 questions I have about this. This was the right move for the Saints. It's the right move for Derek Carr to choose the Saints in this situation.
And Chris Olave is about to be an all-pro because of this move.